Hello, Heber Heights, and good evening. Thank you so much for joining me tonight, and thank you in advance to those who are going to be taking the time to watch this presentation and update later. Really appreciate it. I really do wish that we could be together in the council chambers, but under the circumstances, that's just not the safest option. So this virtual presentation is how we decided to go ahead and present tonight's information. Before we dive into the information of the revitalization, which I know all of you are excited about and I'm excited about, of Brandt Pike, I want to pose a very important question. And I'd like all of you to consider it over the course of this forum. If not us, who? And if not now, when? Let me repeat that. If not us, who? If not now, when? Economic development has been a focus of city leaders for the past 4 decades. So I want to ask all of you to bear with me for a few minutes as I tell a story of reflection on some of those very key, difficult circumstances and tough decisions that were made to bring us to the point today where a project such as the revitalization of Brandt Pike is even possible. I'll also get into the city's financial position and discuss some budgetary information. It was a little over 40 years ago that Heber Heights didn't even exist. It was a township experiencing growth as people moved from Dayton to our bedroom community here in the north. Charles Huber began building and selling homes in 1957 at Leston, Old Troy Pike, and Macon. By 1959, according to an old Dayton Daily News article, Mr. Huber had already built 10,000 homes. Mr. Huber was a true visionary, and by his mid-20s, he had one of the fastest growing companies in the United States. By the late 1970s, Dayton realized the potential of Wayne Township and began trying to annex us into the city of Dayton. If it were not for our first mayor, Richard Schomper, and first city administrator, Charles Manita, we would all likely be residents of the city of Dayton today. Those 2 men specifically began the process of fighting that annexation, which would ultimately lead to the incorporation of the city of Heber Heights on January 23rd, 1981. I believe it is incredibly important for us to remember the challenges our past leaders faced and the decisions they made, which allow us to continue being the great city that we all love today. Charles Huber, Richard Schomper, and Charles Manita are no longer with us, but their memory and what they did for Heber Heights will always live on. As only the 7th mayor of Heber Heights, I'm humbled to be able to continue the vision of Mr. Huber, Dick Schomper, and Charles Manita. For it was their vision to build Heber Heights, and I, along with my colleagues, take the responsibility very serious to make it better. Once the annexation attempt of Dayton was successfully fought off, we found ourselves a struggling bedroom community with hardly enough property tax collections to provide the basic city services required, such as police and fire protection. City leaders knew they had to do something to increase the commercial tax base, or everything they fought so hard to keep would all be for nothing. Well, there was a cornfield near I-70 and 235 for sale, and they had the vision to recognize that that could be the opportunity they needed for a commercial business park. They made the decision to invest in our city, and that cornfield is now Centerpoint 70. And that, in later combination with the Executive Boulevard Commerce Park and the Studebaker Industrial Park, and the innumerable businesses over the years, along with thousands of jobs, helped to secure the finances and the commercial tax base that the city so desperately needed over what would be the next 15 years. The criticism was intense for the decision to spend $2 million in 1982 for a cornfield, which is $5.4 million in today's money. But that decision was truly the beginning of business growth in Heber Heights. I could spend an hour alone just talking about all the policies enacted by past councils that helped create the environment for businesses such as ABF, Ada, and Coca-Cola to invest and move to Heber Heights. I am thankful for the foresight of those city council members and administrative staffs beginning almost 40 years ago. So 2 things needed to happen for Heber Heights to really be able to grow. We had to expand the water infrastructure boundaries, and we had to upgrade the interchanges at 201, 202, and 70, because I'm sure some of you remember Old Troy Pike and Brandt Pike resembled Bell Fountain at that time. So let's talk about the purchase of the water company. The first critical decision in the growth of Heber Heights was the purchase of Ohio Suburban. Ohio Suburban wouldn't expand the water infrastructure into other areas which was desperately needed for growth. In 1994, city leaders made the decision to purchase the water company, which we still own today. Owning the water company has allowed for more growth and has given us the ability to finance and pay for over $11 million of renewed water infrastructure. The $8.2 million that was paid for the water company was a lot of money then, and it equates to about $14.5 million today. But we can look back now and know that the purchase was well worth it. And it was not only a key that enabled us to grow, but provided better quality water services to our residents today and into the future. So now the second critical decision that allowed us to grow was an agreement that was reached between the city and the Ohio Department of Transportation to upgrade the I-70 interchanges 10 years ahead of schedule. But the stipulation was that the city had to come up with their own portion of the funding before the state would begin construction on what was approximately a $30 million highway project. Like some of you, I wondered why Walmart just up and left their location on Old Troy Pike. And what we know now was that this was the city's first use of tax increment financing, better known as TIF. Walmart agreed to build a superstore, and the revenue generated by the TIF district at that time is what provided the city with the necessary funding to start the highway upgrades at Brandt and Old Troy. City leaders had to remain silent to all the criticism of allowing Walmart to just up and leave one location abandoned just to build a new one the next exit up. But they had to, because the new tenant of the old space, which is now Hobby Lobby, demanded secrecy of their plans for a new Heber Heights location. But in the end, it all worked out perfectly as planned, and the interchanges were completely overhauled and upgraded, again, 10 years ahead of schedule. Which brings us to about 2000. So in the early 2000s, the city entered into an agreement with a developer from Columbus for a golf course community called Bench Rock. I believe most of you may be familiar with that. The city agreed to build the boulevard through the development as the main infrastructure piece to develop the property, and then to no fault of the city, the developer went bankrupt. And we were left with the cost of the boulevard, and the developer hadn't built the first tee box, the first green, or the first house in that project. Even though we didn't have a golf course or houses, what we did have and have always had is a very intelligent and innovative staff and a council who is willing to roll up their sleeves and get to work to solve problems. The Carriage Trails development and the Miami County TIF became the solution to the bankrupt Bench Rock project. You know, sometimes things happen out of our control, no matter how great the intentions. But when you have smart people working diligently to solve those problems, usually things work out for the best. Now, Carriage Trails has been one of the greatest success stories for not only Heber Heights, but for the entire region. Bill Keithler, as Vice President of DEC Land Company, read a statement from DEC President George Jenkins at a January 2015 council meeting. I'd like to read a few excerpts from Mr. Jenkins' statement. The forward thinking of this council and staff has allowed Carriage Trails to be recognized as the fastest growing housing development in all of southwestern Ohio. Mr. Jenkins further stated that he knew where there would be challenges simply because of the size and the scope of the project, along with the downturn in the economy that was happening at the time. And because of those demands, it was quickly realized that there would be a need to establish a public-private partnership between DEC and the city of Heber Heights. Continuing, that the city saw the project as more than just a development, but rather a growth engine for the entire city. And if money generated from Carriage Trails was reinvested in other parts of the city, it could have a positive long-term benefit for many years to come. When DEC donated 60 acres of land to the city and then entered into a purchase agreement to buy that acreage back, it was our way of providing a level of security that the city deserves and the opportunity for us to give back. And the $1.8 million we provided has been deposited into the city treasury and can be used at the city's discretion. The Kroger Aquatic Center and the Rose Music Center are also two other large projects the city has undertaken in recent years. The Aquatic Center was built to replace the old YMCA pool that was closed at what is now Charles Bonita Park on Fishburg. The Aquatic Center was not built to generate revenue, but to operate as an amenity for our residents that they could enjoy and to be ran as fiscally efficient as possible. The city's operational cost of the Aquatic Center was only approximately $40,000 in 2020, including the $40,000 naming rights from the Kroger Corporation. When you compare that to the cost of what other cities charge their residents on recreational levies, golf courses, pools, recreational centers, we've been able to keep that promise of efficiency to the taxpayers while providing a great amenity to our residents. The Kroger Aquatic Center is a success and another example of a project done right for our taxpayers. Now, the Rose Music Center has also been an unbelievable success story. Ticket sales and revenue have increased every year since its opening. It attracts people from all over the United States to Heber Heights, and that also contributes to the overall health of our local economy. The Rose's reputation in the industry is second to none and is something we should truly be proud of. We already have a long-term mortgage on half of the project cost, and will secure another long-term mortgage on the other half next year as we refinance some current short-term notes. The TIF district revenue generated pays the debt service, so zero personal income tax ever or is currently paying the mortgage on the Rose. I know this has been a great source of conflict, confusion, and misunderstanding. So I just want to make that point very clear. All debt on the Rose is being covered by an annual increasing income stream that is produced by the TIF. Now, I know that TIFs have generally been a source of contention, and I'd be happy to discuss the details of a TIF with anyone who has questions regarding them. However, I would like to briefly describe how another community has used TIFs to their advantage. Now, the overpass and development at Austin Landing was built by TIF funding. Montgomery County has been collecting your property tax dollars for as long as you've been a Heber Heights resident and has been sending a portion of that money to other community projects like Austin Landing. That's right. Some of your property tax dollars are funding the growth in other communities. Now, I think we need to do everything we can to keep as much of those tax dollars in our own community and invest it here so we can be in control of our own destiny rather than other communities benefiting from your hard-earned dollars. I will never apologize for keeping our money in our city. Now, the background I just reflected on is very important for everyone to be familiar with. It's important to know because there's a solid track record of success that is just simply undeniable when it comes to large-scale projects that this city has undertaken. The city has made the conscious decision to invest in itself over and over and over again, and has been very successful in doing so. I believe it's imperative to know and understand our history so we can identify how we can successfully move into the future. Now, in the last few weeks, Council has reviewed the proposed 2021 budget, and I could not be more pleased to let everyone know tonight that even through the stranglehold of the COVID pandemic, we have a projected surplus of $333,000 for 2021. Only through sound fiscal legislative policy passed by this council could we have ever imagined seeing a surplus moving into 2021. Because we have such a diverse local economy, we have so far managed to come through this pandemic without any adverse budgetary actions that would have lessened the quality or the quantity of city services that you've come to expect. Now, unlike other communities around us, we find ourselves on very sound financial footing. Our city manager, finance director, and financial advisor put together a debt presentation for the city council a few weeks ago, which explained all of our debt positions and more. They showed the revenue streams directly aimed at each of those debts. Not only do we have a projected surplus, we have a cash carryover throughout all city funds of $45 million. We have also managed to increase our general fund position from about $9 million just 3 short years ago to over $14 million today. We have also learned from our financial advisor that the Montgomery County TIF district qualifies for an extension, which will generate an estimated $1.5 to $2 million per year, or between $45 million and $60 million over the next 30 years of that extension. That's enough revenue to cover the entire cost of our interior streets program for another 30 years. Every year the TIF is enforced and more development happens, our schools become a beneficiary of those increased property tax dollars. I want to assure you that the city and its finances are in sound fiscal shape. And it's because of the care taken to manage the city's finances responsibly that we've been able to move the plans forward for the Brandt Pike Revitalization project. For over 20 years, the residents of Heber Heights have been asking for reinvestment in the southern portion of our city. It's the one thing that's been heard loud and clear that people want. So I ask you again, if not us, who? And if not now, when? Well, I believe the answer to that question is us and now. So now for the update. I am very happy and excited tonight to let everyone know that we have indeed entered into a purchase and sales contract with the library for them to purchase 4 acres of property at what will now be known as South Point Crossing, which is currently the old Marion Meadows Plaza. Tim Cambridge, the Executive Director of the Dayton-Montgomery County Public Library, will be joining me to give us the update on the new Heber Heights branch. And then I'll have some renderings of the initial conceptual ideas for South Point Crossing that I'd like to share with you. Tim, welcome to our community forum this evening. I really appreciate you taking the time to be part of our presentation to the community this evening.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to share with you in celebrating this new development. As most people know, we've been working to be a part of all the communities in Montgomery County where we've had library service. And when we passed our bond issue to support the replacement of all the libraries around the county, we had a lot of work ahead of us. But we knew that we would make certain that each of the communities that we serve would get the libraries they deserve. We've been working hard to try to make certain that as we've been budgeting for this project, that we would always make certain that each project would get funded with enough money, indexing it for inflation to make certain that these projects would all be successful. The Heber Heights branch is actually going to be the last of the building programs that we'll be designing. So it has some great advantages of the fact that the other 18 projects that we've done have taught us a lot about the library design that we've been doing and how we can always improve upon them. But one of the things that we always make certain to do as a part of these projects is to start them with public input. And this is something that we are really looking forward to. I'm going to give you the library's website address, and you can certainly find it. I know many library users may even have it memorized. It's www.daytonmetrolibrary.org. And I want to make certain that people are aware to come and visit us next Thursday at 4:30. We are having a public session, and we want residents of Heber Heights to come and join us. It's going to be an that will give us the opportunity to get your feedback as to what it is that you want to celebrate in this new library for Heber Heights. I can give you a couple of details of the things that we're going to be talking about. First of all, we'll be talking about the site, and you'll hear more about the library site here shortly and how it fits into this new project. One of the things that we want to make certain to do is to give you a feel for what we've done with some of our other projects, so you know what some of the range of things are. But I also want to make certain that people come and give us feedback about what it is that is unique about Heber Heights as a community, so that we can bring those design values into the design of the building. We have a lot of good experience. LWC is the architect of record for this project. They were the same architect that helped design the main library downtown. So they were very much involved in that project. We will make certain that they will listen to what the residents of Heber Heights have to say and help us make certain that we design the building for tomorrow. One of the things that I've done recently is to look to see what Heber Heights libraries in the past were like. For instance, when we first built a library in Heber Heights, it was in 1961 we signed a lease for the first branch. It was a small, I think it was 30 feet by 60 feet, a total of like 1,800 square feet, was the first branch, and it quickly was outgrown by the growth of residents, and we replaced that with a branch. Many of you remember that are on Brandt Pike as a part of the Huber Center shopping center. That building was expanded, almost doubled in size in 1967 to almost 10,000 square feet. And we almost doubled it again in 1996 as we moved it from the original building into the shopping center. And we'll go into a little bit more detail when we have our public meeting. But I do invite people to come and join us. Again, it's going to be next week on Wednesday. It's from 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. is the meeting time, and we want to make certain that residents can join us for that. Come to the library website, and we can help share lots of details, but more importantly, give you the opportunity to help shape what the new library in Huber Heights will look like. So I'm going to turn it back over and let's get more details about the larger project.
And, thank you, Sam. I really appreciate you being here this evening and taking some time to to engage with our community. And I know you have that community forum coming up where you're going to get some great feedback about, I think, what Huber Heights residents are going to want in that library. So certainly appreciate you being in tonight. Now, I know there were some people, I have seen some comments where Mr. Kamich wasn't able to be heard all that great, but this is being recorded and we played back through different forums, and there will be certainly plenty of time for anybody who's interested in hearing or watching again where they will be able to. So now that we know the library is going to be part of South Point Crossing and part of this new project and this new reinvestment that we're doing there at Brandt Pike and Fishburg, we do have some. I'm excited to show just some conceptual drawings, kind of some renderings in the beginning, just to kind of give an idea of what what the architect believed could be. The concepts of what could happen there, and I think we're in a good position to make sure that this happens. So, if we could put up the overhead rendering. So, if you can take a look at that, you can see on the bottom left corner there, the two white buildings that you're seeing. That is the current shopping center where the T-Mobile and Subway is at. What you're probably not going to see is the extension that goes back toward where Marion Meadows is at currently, where I think most of you probably are familiar with where maybe the old Heat nightclub was. That part of that structure will be coming down. There is room for another commercial spot there. That is the post office behind there, and then of course the Athletic Foundation further on down Fishburg. There's room for a couple of outlots for commercial property up on that face closer toward Brandt Pike, and then of course over on the far right-hand side, as you see the entrance, which is now Premier Way, that goes back toward the roundabout. Immediately there to the left of that entrance, that is where the library will be. So the library will be right up front and center along Brandt Pike, just past the entrance into Premier Health Way, heading toward Fishburg. Then of course you can see the initial the first building of the medical facility is right there, and then further behind that, that is a space that Premier Health wanted to keep as they might have some plans in the future of another medical facility there. And then of course back behind that is the residential component. There are certainly many different concepts of a way for residential building and residential development there through a mixed use of maybe different apartments and condominiums and townhomes, some smaller homes that you'll see along the kind of the parkway there that lead off of the roundabout. So overall, this project, we believe, will have the retail component, it'll have the commercial component, it'll have the public service municipal component with the library and a potential new city building for tax and water, because we're spending money leasing those facilities elsewhere, and the residential component. So all of that fit into this particular corner, and this new South Point crossing is going to be, it's going to be pretty fantastic once it all comes together. And I'm telling you, I believe it will. So we can see the next rendering. So this would just be another kind of an overhead view, looking at it from a kind of across the street there at an angle of the current retail spaces. And again, these are just, this is just another kind of bird's eye view, looking at the shopping center, looking at some of the commercial lots, seeing where the library would go in relationship to the other medical facilities there and the residential component piece there in the back. So this particular angle that you'd be looking at here would be if you were actually heading north on Brandt Pike, and you would head into, there's an entrance there already where it would be at the end of where that existing shopping center is. So as you would pull in there, see there's going to be some nice remodeling and updating to that existing shopping center there. And as you see an example of that tower on the corner where the South Point Crossing label will be, so as the name of our new center there. And then just as you look through there, you can see another commercial piece. Could we go back to the other one just real quick? So as you look kind of through there and on up Brandt Pike, you can see where the library would be. Further up, there's room again for a commercial outlot, for another commercial space there in the front. As you look back on that entrance, you can see some more commercial space further on into the back. So again, that'll give you a pretty good view, and we'll have these renderings available for people to look at. Now if we could go to the next one. So the last rendering we have here, this would be if you had pulled into Premier Way and you got down to the, just prior to that roundabout, the street that would go off to the left. So this, you'd be looking at, staying there looking into the new project, and you'd see the library there off to the left, see some glass windows, different types of materials. And again, that's just based on what we know, what some of the things that the library likes, but we'll have lots of good community feedback in the forum that they're doing. And then off to the right is where you could see the possible new municipal center there. So again, we just couldn't be more excited about what this project could do, what it would mean to the southern part of the city. It's the redevelopment and it's the reinvestment that we need. And, you know, this will help property values, everything as we move south of town. And, you know, quite frankly, this project and the way this was designed and developed and thought through and took place, this is something that we could take this model and just move this and work further on south down Brandt Pike. So we have a great future ahead of us. Our finances are fine. We have really hardworking, intelligent people who are working on this to make sure that we can deliver the best possible development investment to the taxpayers in the city. So there you have it. That's the update. The big news is the library. We have the commitment that the library will be part of our project. But before we close for tonight, I do want to share just a little bit about the architectural firm that designed the actual conceptual renderings for South Point Crossing. You know, LWC is a firm that has worked with the Montgomery County Library and designed 3 of the existing branches that are standing today. LWC was also the firm that designed our new schools a few years ago, along with the Eichelberger Amphitheater and Fire Station 25. They're also the firm the city is contracted with to design the new Veterans Memorial that will begin construction early next year. Look, this city has a great relationship with LWC, and they understand what our community is looking for. A partner in LWC is Bear Manita. If the Manita name is familiar to you, it's because he is the son of our first city manager, Charles Manita. Bear has a history and personal connection to Heber Heights, and I guarantee you he wants nothing but the best for all of Heber Heights residents, the same as his father did some 40 years ago. So with that is the end of the information of the presentation that I have for this evening. And I know there were a few questions that had been submitted to us prior, and I'm trying to see here on Facebook if there are some other questions. But someone had asked the question about, did the city plan on with us, yep, wrong camera, okay. With the city on those projects where the initial shopping center is at now. So some of the businesses that are in there have been concerned about some of the lighting and feeling safe when they visit some of those places in the evening. So there will be a property management company that begins running that property, and we know that safety is an issue, and we will make sure that those issues are dealt with. Someone had asked about our Kroger Marketplace, and I think Kroger Marketplaces are fine, but again, that's private development. And if we can do the things here and show that Huber Heights could support a Kroger Marketplace through development and investment, then I think Kroger would be more than happy to take a look at Huber Heights for one of their Kroger Marketplaces, but that would be a corporate decision on their part. That's not something that the city itself would be involved in. And then I have a question from somebody who's interested if they could reserve about 10,000 square foot of space on Brandt Pike. And the answer to that is absolutely yes. If that's something you're interested in, Jason Foster is our Economic Development Coordinator. Give him a call at City Hall tomorrow. So I'm not seeing, okay, so someone asked what the time frame was. I do see that. So time frame wise, we would expect to see some of the buildings being raised and some demolition of part of the Marion Meadows current shopping center spring next year. And, Tim has left, but I know just some of our conversations. Okay, he's on. So some of our conversations, I believe that by the time the library goes through their community forums and feedback and then their final design stages and things like that, I think, and from what I've heard, probably sometime this time next year, the library would probably be ready to start construction. The remodeling and the upgrades of the existing shopping center and retail spaces that are there, I think that's going to be happening sooner rather than later. I think the majority of these things at least will see construction happening sometime during 2021. So it's a process, but that process will happen. But what I also promise is it won't take any longer than absolutely necessary. So our dogs go to sit, stay, and play. How will this impact our ability to access this indoor park? So sit, stay, and play. Can we talk about that? I'll just say for now that there are plans for that to be taken care of. So it's not something that I would worry about. There will still be plenty of opportunity for your pets to have a indoor dog facility, and of course our outdoor dog park just a couple blocks away. And what area of town do you envision walking into this complex? So there's if you're talking about walking, if you look down Fishburg, there's access into it that way. There's access, and of course there's sidewalks all along Brandt Pike there. So there's actually sidewalk access and pedestrian access all along Brandt Pike and down Fishburg, and then entrance and access way into behind there. And then I would imagine, certainly as a developer for the residential component looks at that, there'll certainly be sidewalks and ways to walk and to enjoy that. So I worry about the traffic congestion during the revitalization. Will there be traffic rerouted, or how will the traffic be expected to flow during this time? Well, so the traffic on Brandt Pike really won't be impacted because all of the work is actually happening inside of the actual space. So where, the Marion Meadows Shopping Center sets, a couple hundred yards back off of the main area. So I don't envision any work on the actual state route there that would impede traffic really any at all, as again, most of the work is all happening inside the actual space. So I come online late. Will your slides be on the HHOH website soon? Yes, we'll make sure that the renderings are placed on our website so anybody can view them and take a look at them. Absolutely. How will this impact home property taxes in that area? Well, I think, part of any issue when property values go up, property taxes go up. And, we're certainly aware of that. That's kind of what's happening in the overall Dayton area. Right now, property taxes are going up. I believe the county auditor just made a deal with the state in regard to a percentage increase in property taxes. And, all of us want to live in a community where our property values are going up, not down. And, unfortunately, taxes are just a part of that. But if property values increase in the overall area in the southern part of the city, then yes, property taxes, I would assume, would increase. And so what is going on where the bar was torn down close to Walgreens? Okay, so that doesn't have anything to do with this particular project, but there is a company, I believe, called Modern Gas and Convenience. So where I believe that was where the Double Deuce was at before, that will be a new gas station convenience store. So really on the southern part of town, once you pass kind of where Speedway is at on Brandt Pike, there's a Valero station there, but there really isn't any other options for gas until you get down to, more down to Harshman. So on the first map, the buildings labeled for commercial, are they likely restaurants or something else or undetermined at this point? So I think right now it's undetermined, those are commercial lots, but certainly, I think one of the things we've always talked about is in order to have commercial development, you need eyeballs and pocketbooks, right? You have to have people and you have to have money. And with this type of development and growth, and when you look at the type of residential plans that are happening here, I certainly could see restaurants and casual dining, things like that would want to be there because there are going to be lots of people living in that area. And again, the traffic on Brandt Pike, the traffic counts, we do know that, it's the traffic isn't as congested as it is at Old Troy and 70, but, on this end of town, on the southern portion, we have great traffic counts there. So I think any business that would want to put a restaurant there would certainly see success. And, our economic development team is going to be working to make sure that this property is all marketed as great as we can possibly do it. Okay, so I don't believe that I'm seeing any of the questions, at least that are in my view right now to answer. Certainly, anybody can reach out to me. My phone number is, my cell phone number is on the city website. You can reach out to me in Facebook. You can send me messages. I get a lot of messages, and if you reach out to me and for some reason 24 hours I don't get back to you, please send me another message. I may have just missed the notification. I very well could have missed it. But I certainly enjoy and love communicating with everybody in the city and would do so at any time. If anybody has any questions, would like to meet with me personally, if you have other questions regarding tips and taxes or whatever it is that you like, I'm always available. Just reach out to me and I'll be more than happy to talk to anyone. So with that said, I think we've probably taken up maybe 35, 40 minutes of your Thursday evening. I can't thank you enough for those of you that decided to join in and listen to what we had to present this evening. I appreciate and respect all of you, and just know that we are doing what we absolutely believe is right and what the taxpayers have always wanted, and that is reinvestment and redevelopment of the southern, the more older part of the city. So with that, I appreciate it. Thank you. And everyone have a fantastic evening and happy holidays to all of you. Merry Christmas.